Captain Dae-ho Kim stood in the center of the great crystal chamber, his human form looking tiny among the towering alien delegates. The walls of Nexus Prime's council hall stretched up into darkness, filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some floated in gas-filled bubbles, others hung from the ceiling like giant bats. A few glowed with their own inner light. Dae-ho had been to many worlds in his 20 years of service, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The air buzzed with alien voices, speaking in languages no human throat could make, electronic translators. Worked overtime, filling his earpiece with a dozen conversations at once. Behind him, Dr. Soo-Jin Park adjusted her formal Earth diplomatic robes. She had spent months preparing for this day, learning alien customs and protocols. Her briefcase held documents showing humanity's contributions to galactic science, trade agreements that benefited everyone, and proof of human colonies living peacefully alongside alien settlements. Engineer Won-Sik Lee stood quietly near the back of the human delegation. His sharp eyes moved constantly, studying the alien technology around them. Every surface in the chamber seemed alive with flowing lights and data streams. He had never seen anything like it, and his mind raced with possibilities. The chamber fell silent as a massive figure rose from the central platform. Counselor Vexithari of the Hegemony stood 12 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound cold and final. "We have gathered to decide the fate of the species called humanity," Vexithari announced. "For 50 years, they have been members of our galactic community. In that time, we have watched them with growing concern." Dae-ho felt his stomach tighten. This was not starting well. "Humans solve every problem with violence," continued another delegate, this one a floating jellyfish-like creature. "Their history shows nothing but war. They fight each other. They fight their environment. Now they want to fight us." Dr. Park stepped forward. "Honored delegates, if I may speak in humanity's defense—" "You may not," Vexithari cut her off. "This is not a trial. This is a verdict." The chamber erupted in alien sounds that the translator could barely keep up with. Clicking, humming, telepathic whispers that made Dae-ho's head hurt. But the meaning was clear. They had already decided. "Humanity advances too quickly," said a delegate that looked like a walking tree. "In 50 years, they have learned technologies that took us centuries to develop. This is unnatural. This is dangerous." "They ask too many questions," added another voice. "They want to know how everything works. They take apart our gifts to understand them. This shows they cannot be trusted." Won-Sik Lee almost smiled at that complaint. Of course humans took things apart. How else could they learn? But he kept quiet, as Dr. Park had instructed. "Their military grows stronger every year," Vexithari continued. "They build weapons we have never seen. They train for wars that do not exist. They prepare for conflicts we have spent generations avoiding." Dae-ho wanted to argue. Humans built weapons because the galaxy was a dangerous place. Pirates attacked trade ships. Unknown threats lurked in dark space. But military preparation was seen as hostile by these aliens who preferred talking to fighting. "Most concerning," said a new voice, one that sounded like singing crystals, "is their effect on younger species. The Altarians have started building warships after meeting humans. The Centauri colonies now train citizen militias. Humanity spreads the disease of conflict wherever they go." Dr. Park tried again. "Please, if you would just listen to our achievements. Human medicine has saved millions of alien lives. Our engineering has improved living conditions on dozens of worlds. Our explorers have discovered new trade routes that benefit everyone." "Your doctors are too curious about alien biology," Vexithari replied. "Your engineers change things that worked fine for thousands of years. Your explorers go to places marked as forbidden. You cannot leave anything alone." The accusations continued for hours. Humans were too aggressive, too curious, too quick to change things, too ready to fight, too unwilling to wait for committee decisions that took years to make. Won-Sik Lee listened to it all and began to understand. These aliens had built their civilization on being careful, on moving slowly, on avoiding risks. Humanity represented everything they feared about rapid change. Therefore, Vexithari announced as the sun set outside the crystal walls, by unanimous vote of all member species, we declare humanity incompatible with galactic civilization. You are hereby expelled from all civilized space. The words hit Daeho like a physical blow. Expelled, cast out, banished. You will return to your home system, the jellyfish delegate added. Quantum barriers will be established around your space. You will not be permitted to leave. Contact with human colonies outside the barrier will be severed. Any attempt to break quarantine will be met with force. Dr. Park's composure finally cracked. You're condemning billions of innocent people. Our colonies, our traders, our families scattered across the galaxy. They may choose, Vexithari said without emotion. Return to human space before the barriers activate, or remain in exile from their own kind. The choice is theirs. This is not justice, Daeho said, finding his voice at last. This is fear. You're afraid of what humanity might become, so you're locking us away like criminals. Yes, Vexithari agreed simply. We are afraid, and we are wise to be afraid. Your species has the potential to destroy the peace we have built over millennia. We will not allow that. The chamber began to empty as alien delegates departed. Some looked sad, others seemed relieved. A few watched the humans with what might have been pity. As they walked back to their ship, Dr. Park spoke quietly to her companions. How long do we have? The barriers will activate in 30 days, Won-Sik Lee replied. He had been monitoring the alien technical discussions. Any human who wants to return to Earth has that long to get inside the barrier. Daeho looked up at the alien stars above Nexus Prime. In 30 days, those stars would be forbidden to humanity. They would be prisoners in their own solar system, cut off from the galaxy they had only begun to explore. But as they boarded their ship for the long journey home, Won-Sik Lee was already thinking. The aliens used quantum technology for their barriers, and humans, as they had often complained, were very good at taking things apart to understand how they worked. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. By the time they arrived, the news had spread to every human world and colony. The Great Exodus had begun. Ships packed with refugees fled toward Earth as the quantum barriers began to form. On Earth, Admiral Bo-Ra Choi called an emergency meeting of world leaders. The question was simple. What would humanity do now? Some wanted to plead for mercy. Others suggested peaceful isolation. But a growing number had a different idea. If the galaxy saw humanity as a threat, perhaps it was time to become the threat, they feared. The barriers activated on schedule. Humanity was alone, cut off from the stars. But in the darkness of their exile, something new was beginning to grow. Something the aliens had been right to fear. The age of human submission was over. The age of empire was about to begin. Commander Tae-Jun Han floated in zero gravity, watching the construction crews work on the massive battleship outside his window. 50 years had passed since the aliens locked humanity inside their own solar system. 50 years of anger, growth, and preparation. The ship they were building was called the Indomitable Will. It was unlike anything humanity had ever constructed before. The hull seemed to drink in light, making it almost invisible against the black of space. Weapons that could tear holes in reality itself lined its sides. This was not the same humanity that had been cast out decades ago. Tae-Jun's father had been one of the refugees who fled the outer colonies when the barriers went up. He used to tell stories about the fear in those early days, how families were separated across the galaxy. how human traders and explorers suddenly found themselves cut off from home forever. How Earth's leaders didn't know if humanity would survive as a species. But they had survived. More than that, they had grown stronger. "Commander Han, to the bridge," came a voice over the ship's communication system. Tai Jun pushed off from the window and floated through the corridors toward the command center. Chief Engineer Min-ai Song was waiting for him with a smile on her face. She held a data pad showing power readings that made Tae-jun's eyes widen. "The new quantum cores are working perfectly," she reported. "We're getting 3 times the power output of our old fusion reactors, and that's just the beginning." Min-ai had spent her entire career designing weapons and engines that the galaxy had never seen. When humanity was locked away, they had been forced to innovate or die. They chose to innovate in ways that would shock their former alien neighbors. "Show me the weapon tests," Tae-jun requested. Min-ai led him to the tactical center where screens showed target practice in the asteroid belt. Human ships fired beams that passed through solid rock as if it wasn't there, then exploded inside their targets. Other weapons seemed to make asteroids simply disappear, their matter converted into pure energy. The aliens always wondered why. "We took their technology apart," Min-ai explained. "They thought we were being rude, but we learned how everything worked. Now we build things they never imagined possible." Across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out. Jupiter's moons had become factory worlds, producing ships and weapons around the clock. The asteroid belt buzzed with mining operations that could strip a rock bare in hours. Saturn's rings now contained orbital shipyards larger than Earth's. Biggest cities. Dr. Jae-wook Nam worked in a laboratory deep inside Ceres, the largest asteroid. For 30 years, he had studied the quantum barriers that kept humanity trapped. The aliens thought their prison was perfect. They were wrong. The barriers work by creating a quantum field that prevents faster-than-light travel, he explained to his research team. But like any field, it has weaknesses, patterns we can exploit. Jae-wook had discovered something the aliens didn't know about their own technology. The barriers that kept humans in also kept aliens out. More importantly, they had a shutdown sequence built into their core programming. The aliens had created a backdoor, probably for maintenance. Jae-wook had found it. "How long until we can bring them down?" asked his assistant, Dr. Kyung-soo Park. 6 months, Jae-wook replied. "Maybe less. The question is whether we're ready for what comes next." That question was being answered in military facilities across the solar system. General Hye-jin Kang stood in the command center of Mars Military Academy, watching thousands of soldiers train for battles in alien environments. These weren't the divided armies of old Earth. Every human military unit now served under a single command structure. "The old nations don't matter anymore," she told her staff officers. "Russian, American, Chinese, Korean. We're all human now, all part of the same mission." The exile had done something the old United Nations never could. It had united humanity completely. When faced with a common enemy, all the old divisions disappeared. Every human settlement, from Earth's cities to the mining stations around Pluto, worked toward the same goal. "What's our current strength?" asked Colonel Min-ho Seo. 12 million active military personnel, General Kang replied. "Another 50 million in reserves. Every human adult has basic combat training. Every child learns strategy and tactics in school. We have more soldiers than the entire Galactic Council combined. But numbers alone wouldn't win the coming war." Intelligence Director Young-soo Lim knew that victory would come from information. His spy networks had spent decades learning everything they could about the aliens who had cast humanity out. "They've grown soft," he reported to the War Council. 50 years of peace while we prepared for war. Their fleets are smaller than when they exiled us. Their technology hasn't advanced at all. They think the human problem is solved. Young-soo's agents had infiltrated alien computer networks using quantum communication systems the aliens didn't know existed. They had maps of every major alien world, lists of military assets, details of political divisions and economic weaknesses. The Vexthari hegemony is having trade disputes with the Centauri Federation, he continued. The Altarian Republic is dealing with internal rebellions. The Galactic Council meets maybe twice a year now. They've forgotten how to work together. Admiral Bo-Ra Choi, now in her 80s but still sharp as ever, listened to all the reports with satisfaction. She had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, the moment when humanity would return to the galaxy, not as the desperate refugees they had been, but as conquerors. "Dr. Nam," she said, "how confident are you about bringing down the barriers?" "Completely confident," Jae-wook replied. "I've run the calculations 1,000 times. When we activate the shutdown sequence, every barrier around human space will collapse simultaneously. General Kang, are our forces ready?" "Ready and eager," Hyojin confirmed. 50 years of training, Admiral. 50 years of waiting. My people are ready to show the galaxy what humans can do when we're not trying to be polite. Director Lim, what's our first target?" Young-soo smiled. "Proxima Station, our old first colony. The Vexthari took it over after the exile. It's lightly defended, strategically important, and taking it back will send exactly the message we want to send." Admiral Choi nodded slowly. She remembered Proxima Station from the early days of human expansion. Families had lived there. Children had been born under alien stars. Now it was time to reclaim what had been stolen. "Very well," she said. "Dr. Nam, begin the final preparations for barrier shutdown. General Kang, position the First Fleet for immediate departure. Director Lim, prepare our message to the galaxy." The room fell silent as the magnitude of the moment hit everyone present. For 50 years, humanity had been prisoners in their own solar system. In a few months, they would be free. But they wouldn't be the same species that had been cast out. The aliens had been right to fear what humanity might become in the darkness. But their fear had come 50 years too late. Outside Dr. Nam's laboratory, the asteroid belt hummed with activity. Millions of humans worked day and night, building the tools of conquest. The Forge of Exile had been hot and merciless, but it had created something the galaxy had never seen before. An empire was about to be born, and its first word would be spoken in the language of war. Fleet Admiral Insoo Park stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra's Wrath, watching the quantum barriers flicker and die around the solar system. After 50 years of imprisonment, humanity was free. But they were not the same species that had been locked away. "Barriers are down across all sectors," reported Navigation Officer Sung-Min Kim. "We have clear space to Proxima Station." Insoo nodded slowly. His aunt Soo-jin had been part of the original delegation that witnessed humanity's exile. She had died 10 years ago, but not before seeing the fleet that would carry out humanity's revenge. She would have been proud of this moment. "Signal the fleet," Insoo commanded. "Operation Homecoming begins now." Behind the flagship, 300 human warships powered up their new quantum phase drives. These ships looked nothing like the vessels humanity had built before exile. They were sleek predators that seemed to bend light around their hulls. When they moved, space itself rippled with their passage. Captain Ji-eun Bae commanded the destroyer Retribution near the front of the formation. She had been born in exile, raised on stories of the homeworld her parents had never seen. Now she would be among the first humans to reclaim their place in the galaxy. "All weapon systems showing green," reported her tactical officer. "The new quantum torpedoes are loaded and ready." Ji-eun smiled grimly. The aliens had no idea what was coming. Human weapons now worked on principles the Galactic Council had never imagined. Missiles that could phase through shields. Energy beams. That ignored armor. Bombs that converted matter directly into explosive force. "Hyperspace jump in 30 seconds, announced Helmsman Dong-Woo Lee across the fleet communication system. The human fleet vanished from normal space, traveling faster than light toward their target. But they weren't using the same hyperspace technology the aliens knew. Human drives could make jumps that seemed impossible, appearing exactly where they wanted without the long approach flights alien ships required. Proxima Station hung in orbit around humanity's first colony world. The station was 10 times larger than it had been during human control. The Vexthari had expanded it into a major trade hub, with thousands of alien ships docking there every day. Governor Wolsik Jong, a Vexthari administrator, was reviewing trade reports when his sensors detected something impossible. 300 unknown contacts had just appeared at the edge of the system. "What kind of ships are those?" he demanded from his bridge crew. "Unknown design," replied his tactical officer. "They're not in any of our databases. Energy signatures are strange. My instruments can't get clear readings." Wolsik's skin shifted to deep purple, a sign of confusion in his species. "Send a challenge. Find out who they are and what they want." The answer came not as a transmission, but as action. The unknown fleet split into attack formations and began moving toward Proxima Station at impossible speeds. No ship should be able to accelerate that fast without crushing its crew. "Alert all defensive units," Wolsik ordered. "Raise shields. Charge weapons." The Vexthari defense fleet consisted of 40 warships, built to the latest galactic standards. They moved to intercept the intruders, confident that superior numbers would carry the day. Captain Ji-Un Bei watched the alien ships approach on her tactical display. They moved in the slow, careful formations the galactic races preferred. Predictable. "Vulnerable," Weapons Officer Dong Hyun. "Oh, you may fire when ready," she commanded. Dong Hyun had trained his whole life for this moment. His parents had been refugees from the outer colonies. His grandparents had died in the Exodus. Now he would begin humanity's payback. "Quantum torpedoes away," he announced. The missiles that left human ships were invisible to alien sensors. They traveled through a different layer of space-time, phasing in and out of normal reality. The Vexthari ships never saw them coming. The first alien cruiser exploded from the inside as 3 torpedoes materialized within its hull and detonated. The second ship lost power when human weapons overloaded its quantum core. The third simply vanished as a human disintegrator beam converted its matter into energy. Within minutes, the entire Vexthari defense fleet was destroyed or disabled. Not a single human ship had taken damage. Governor Wolsik stared at his tactical display in shock. 40 warships destroyed in under 10 minutes. It was impossible. The Galactic Council's most advanced weapons couldn't do that kind of damage so quickly. "Who are they?" he whispered. His answer came as a transmission on all frequencies. Communications specialist Yoonji Ryu aboard the flagship had been waiting 50 years to deliver this message. "Attention, Proxima Station," her voice echoed through the alien facility. "This is the Terran Empire fleet. You are occupying human territory. You have 30 minutes to surrender unconditionally." The words hit Wolsik like a physical blow. Terran, human. But that was impossible. Humans had been locked away 50 years ago. They were primitive, violent creatures who could barely manage interplanetary flight. "This is Governor Wolsik Jong," he transmitted back. "Humans are not permitted in this sector. Return to your quarantine zone immediately." Yoonji's response was calm and cold. "The quarantine is over. We are no longer the humanity you knew. We are the Terran Empire, and we have come to reclaim what was taken from us." As if to demonstrate their new capabilities, the human fleet performed a maneuver that made Wolsik's tactical officers gasp in amazement. All 300 ships vanished from normal space, then reappeared in perfect formation around Proxima Station. They had surrounded the facility in seconds using technology the aliens couldn't even detect. "This is impossible," Wolsik muttered. "No species can develop this fast. It's been only 50 years. Fleet Admiral Insu Park's image appeared on screens throughout the station. He looked nothing like the desperate human diplomats Wolsik remembered from historical records. This human radiated confidence and controlled power. "Governor Zhong," Insu said, somehow knowing the alien's name. "You have 28 minutes to surrender. After that, we will take the station by force." "You can't do this," Wolsik protested. "The Galactic Council will never allow it. We have treaties, laws, procedures." "The Galactic Council cast us out," Insu interrupted. "They declared us incompatible with galactic civilization. We have decided they were right. We are no longer bound by their laws." To prove his point, Insu gave a signal to his weapons officers. A single human destroyer fired a demonstration shot at an empty cargo pod floating near the station. The pod didn't explode or burn. It simply ceased to exist, converted instantly into harmless energy. "That is what happens to those who resist us," Insu explained. "But we are not monsters. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly under Terran rule." Wolsik looked around his command center at his terrified staff. He had 40,000 civilians on the station, representing dozens of alien species. If these humans could destroy 40 warships in minutes, what would they do to a space station? I need to consult with the council," he stammered. "You have 25 minutes, Insu replied. "After that, the decision will be made for you." As Wolsik frantically tried to contact Nexus Prime, diplomatic attaché So Young Kim was already drafting the terms of surrender. Not the terms Proxima Station would offer to humanity, but the terms humanity would impose on the station. The age of human pleading was over. The age of human demanding had begun. In his command chair, Fleet Admiral Insu Park watched the seconds count down. 50 years ago, his aunt had stood helpless as aliens pronounced humanity's exile. Today, he held the power to decide alien fates. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had become in the darkness between stars. And for the species that had cast them out, that lesson would be written in fire and fear. 24 minutes remained. Ambassador Kyungmin Lee walked through the same crystal corridors where humanity had been judged 50 years ago. But this time, he was not here to beg or plead. This time, he carried the demands of the Terran Empire. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called after news of Proxima Station's surrender spread across the galaxy. Panic filled the alien voices as species that had once dismissed humanity now faced the reality of human power. Kyungmin entered the great chamber where his predecessors had been humiliated. The same crystal walls rose into darkness, but now they flickered with emergency broadcasts. Reports of human victories poured in from across the galaxy. 3 major alien powers had already fallen to the Terran Empire. Emperor Junho Yoon appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber, his image towering over the assembled alien delegates. Unlike the desperate human diplomats of the past, the Emperor spoke with absolute confidence. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 50 years ago, you cast humanity out because you feared what we might become. Your fear was justified. Councillor Vexathari, now much older but still the most powerful voice in the council, rose to respond. His 4 arms gestured angrily as his skin shifted through colors of rage and fear. "This is madness," Vexathari declared. "You were exiled, for good reason. You are too violent, too dangerous. We will not submit to human rule." Emperor Yoon's smile was cold and patient. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. You have one choice. Submit to Terran authority and be welcomed as client species of the Empire, or resist and share the fate of those who have already opposed us." To emphasize his point, General Chang Wu-seo activated the chamber's holographic displays. Images of devastated alien fleets filled the air around the delegates. The Zephyrian Collective's 1,000-ship armada reduced to burning wreckage in 12 hours. The Morellian Trade Federation's fortress worlds surrendering after their orbital. Defenses were bypassed like they didn't exist. The proud Carathian warrior culture lasted 3 days, General Seo reported with professional calm. Their battle fleets fought bravely using tactics unchanged for centuries. Human forces predicted their every move and countered before the Carathians could react. A delegate from the Altarian Republic, a bird-like creature with golden feathers, spoke up nervously. "How is this possible? You were primitive when we exiled you, barely capable of interstellar flight." Fleet Commander Hyun Suk An answered by demonstrating human capabilities in real time. Her small escort fleet, waiting just outside the Nexus Prime system, received her signal and moved to intercept the Council's defense fleet. The alien ships that arrived to escort the humans away numbered over 200. They represented the combined might of the Galactic Council's most advanced species. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could withstand stellar radiation. Commander On's 12 ships didn't retreat or fight. Instead, they did. Something the aliens had never seen before. Every Council ship suddenly lost power. Weapons went offline. Engines stopped. Life support systems failed to emergency backup. In 60 seconds, the entire alien fleet was helpless. But they were also unharmed. Every ship still had life support. Every crew member was alive. The humans had demonstrated they could disable any alien technology at will, but had chosen mercy over destruction. "This is our new reality," Emperor Yoon explained to the stunned council. "Human technology has advanced beyond your ability to resist. But we are not here to destroy you. We are here to rule you." Scientific advisor Sung Ho Han stepped forward to explain the technical details. "During our exile, we didn't just develop new weapons. We redefined what warfare means. Our quantum computers can predict enemy actions before they happen. Our matter converters can restructure any substance at the molecular level. Our gravity manipulators can turn planets into weapons." The alien delegates listened in growing horror as Seung Ho described capabilities that seemed like magic. Humans who could walk through solid walls. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that could make stars go supernova. "You're lying," whispered a delegate from the hegemony. "No species can advance this far in 50 years. "Isolation is an excellent teacher," Emperor Yoon replied. "When you locked us away, you forced us to innovate or die. We chose to innovate in ways that would have been impossible if we remained part of your stagnant civilization." The truth was harsh, but undeniable. The galactic civilization had grown, comfortable with its slow pace of change. They preferred committees and consensus to rapid development. While they spent decades debating whether to upgrade their technology, humanity had revolutionized it. Counselor Vexathari made one last desperate attempt to maintain alien superiority. "You forget the ancient guardians, the automated defense, systems left by the precursor race. They have protected galactic order for 10,000 years. They will stop you." Emperor Yoon's smile grew wider. "We were hoping you would activate them." As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout Nexus Prime. The ancient guardians were awakening across the galaxy, massive automated. Warships that had slumbered for millennia began powering up their weapons systems. Each guardian was the size of a moon, equipped with technology from a civilization that had ruled the galaxy before any current species existed. The aliens in the chamber looked relieved. Surely the guardians would stop these upstart humans. The ancient machines had been programmed to maintain galactic stability above all else. They would see the Terran Empire as the greatest threat in recorded history. But Emperor Yoon wasn't worried. In fact, he seemed pleased. "Tech Adept Mikyung Shin," he called to someone off-screen. "Begin Guardian integration protocols." What happened next shattered every alien assumption about human capabilities. As the Guardians powered up to attack human forces, their systems suddenly began receiving new programming. Human technicians who had spent decades studying precursor technology began uploading new command codes. Within hours, the ancient protectors of galactic order were serving new masters. The machines that were supposed to destroy humanity instead began protecting human interests. Impossible, Vexthari gasped. The Guardian codes cannot be broken. We've tried for thousands of years. You tried to break them, Emperor Yoon corrected. We simply rewrote them. When you study something for 50 years with the dedication of a species fighting for survival, you learn things others never imagined. The last hope of alien resistance had just become another tool of human dominance. The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence as the reality of their situation sank in. You have 24 hours to formally surrender, Ambassador Kyung-min Lee announced. After that, the Terran Empire will begin imposing order on this galaxy by force. As the hologram of Emperor Yoon faded away, the alien delegates were left to contemplate their future. The species that had cast humanity out in fear now found themselves facing exactly what they had feared. The age of alien rule was ending. The age of human empire had begun, and deep in space, the ancient Guardians began their new mission, enforcing the will of Terra across the galaxy. Supreme Admiral Gunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the Terra Ascendant, watching as the ancient Guardians moved to defend human space. The massive automated warships that had protected galactic order for 10,000 years now served the Terran Empire. It was a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just months ago. The dreadnought Terra Ascendant was humanity's greatest achievement. Built in secret over the past decade, it was the size of a small moon and contained more firepower than entire alien fleets. Its weapons could restructure matter at the quantum level. Its shields could turn kinetic energy into usable power. It was a symbol of what humanity had become during their exile. Guardian Fleet 7 has taken position around the Vexithari homeworld, reported Navigation Officer Sang-Woo Kim. Guardian Fleet 12 is moving toward the Centauri system. All units are responding to our commands perfectly. Gunwoo nodded with satisfaction. Tech adept Mi-kyung Shin and her teams had done the impossible. They had not only cracked the Guardian command codes, but improved them. The ancient machines now operated with efficiency their original creators never achieved. Any resistance from the Council worlds? Gunwoo asked. Minimal, replied Intelligence Officer Haiwan Lee. Most species are surrendering as soon as our forces arrive. Word of what happened to the Carathians has spread fast. The Carathian Empire had been the galaxy's greatest military power. Their warrior culture had produced the finest soldiers and strongest fleets in known space. When they chose to resist human expansion, everyone expected a long, bloody war. Instead, the conflict lasted 3 days. Human forces didn't just defeat the Carathians, they predicted every battle plan, countered every strategy, and dismantled their entire military structure with surgical precision. The proud warriors who had never known defeat were left helpless and confused. On Nexus Prime, the former seat of galactic power, Empress Ha Young Lim walked through the rebuilt council chambers. She had succeeded Emperor Yoon after his death, the previous year, and now she ruled an empire that spanned the galaxy. The chamber looked very different from the days when aliens had judged humanity. Human architects had redesigned it to project strength and order rather than the chaotic democracy the aliens had preferred. Clean lines replaced flowing curves. Efficient lighting replaced shifting colors. Everything spoke of human precision and control. Counselor Vexthari knelt before the Empress, his 4 arms trembling with age and defeat. The same alien who had pronounced humanity's exile 50 years ago now begged for mercy from human rulers. Your Majesty, Vexithari said, his translator making his voice sound hollow and broken. I formally surrender the hegemony to Terran authority. We ask only for fair treatment under your rule. Empress Hae-young looked down at the alien with neither cruelty nor kindness. The hegemony will be dissolved. Your worlds will become part of the Terran administrative zone. Your people will be relocated to colonies where they can contribute to the Empire's goals. It was not the genocide many aliens had feared, but it was the end of their independence. The species that had cast humanity out would now live under human rule for the rest of their existence. Cultural Integration Director Ji Hwan Moon oversaw the process of bringing alien civilizations into the Terran Empire. His job was to determine which aspects of alien culture could be preserved and which needed to be eliminated. "The Altarians can keep their music and art," he reported to the Empress. "Their mathematical abilities make them useful for engineering projects. The Centauri colonies have agricultural knowledge we can use. Even the Vexithari have value as administrators once they accept their new place." This was not the brutal conquest many had expected. Humans had learned efficiency during their exile. Destroying entire species was wasteful. Converting them into useful parts of the Empire was much more practical. Dr. Ne Young Kwan, the Empire's research director, explained the larger vision to a gathering of former council leaders. "Your old system was broken," she said without emotion. "Endless committees, making decisions that took years to implement. Species protecting their own interests instead of working toward common goals. You built a civilization designed to avoid change." The aliens listened in silence as Na Young described their failures. They had created a galaxy where progress moved, at the speed of the most conservative member, where innovation was discouraged because it might disrupt the status quo, where military weakness was seen as a virtue because it showed peaceful intentions. "Humanity brings unity," Na Young continued. "One government making decisions quickly, one military protecting everyone from external threats, one economic system ensuring efficient resource distribution. The galaxy will finally reach its potential under human guidance." It was a harsh truth that many aliens were beginning to accept. The old council had been paralyzed by its own democratic processes. Important decisions were delayed for decades while representatives argued. Military threats were ignored until they became disasters. Scientific advancement crawled because no one wanted to risk changing established systems. Admiral Sung Jae Kim prepared his fleet for humanity's next great challenge. Long-range sensors had detected something the old council had never noticed: signs of an approaching invasion force from beyond the galactic rim. Ships using unknown technology were moving toward the galaxy at significant speed. "The extragalactic contact will arrive in approximately 18 months, he reported to the War Council. "Based on energy signatures, they possess weapons comparable to our own. This may be the first real test of the Empire's strength." Under the old system, such a threat would have caused panic and confusion. The Council would have spent months debating whether the signals were real, more months arguing about how to respond. By the time they took action, the invaders would already be attacking their worlds. Under human rule, preparation began immediately. Every world in the galaxy received orders to contribute resources to the defense effort. Alien populations were mobilized for military production. Ancient technologies were studied and improved. The entire galaxy became a unified war machine, preparing for battle. Historical chronicler Ira Jung recorded the final entry of the old galactic era in the Imperial archives. Her words would be read by future generations trying to understand how humanity had transformed from exiles to emperors in just 50 years. "They cast humanity out, fearing what we might become in the darkness between stars," she wrote. "They were right to fear us. We became exactly what the galaxy needed, not its destroyers, but its inheritors. The age of committees and compromise is over. The Terran Empire rises, and with it, a galaxy united under human will." Outside her window, the Terran banner flew over Nexus Prime. The stylized Earth, surrounded by stars, had replaced the complex symbol of the old council. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens lived under that banner now. Some served willingly, seeing the benefits of human efficiency. Others obeyed from fear, knowing the fate of those who resisted. But all of them were part of something larger than the divided civilization that had existed before. The galaxy was no longer a collection of competing species. It was a single empire with a single purpose: to grow stronger, reach farther, and face whatever challenges came from the dark spaces. Between stars, humanity's exile was over. Their empire had just begun.